The video begins in near total darkness. A velvety black that seems thick enough to touch. For several seconds there is no image, only the low rumble of blood and veins. A muffled thud that rises and falls like distant artillery. Then a dim emerald glow blooms across the bottom edge of the frame, revealing a cathedral ceiling of ice above and a single white forepaw drifting into view. Fur rippling in slow motion. The GoPro's lens is mounted just under the bear's throat, so every inhale sounds enormous. A bellows drawing liquid night into cavernous lungs. Every exhale a purling rush of bubbles that float past the camera like silver coins. Light flickers from an unseen moon filtering through meter-thick ice. It strobes across the bear's muzzle, black skin. Snow-crusted whiskers trembling against pressure. Each heartbeat becomes a percussive soundtrack. The gunmetal silence of the Arctic Ocean is broken only by those thumps and the occasional ping of distant ice flexing. Ahead, the ice roof bends downward into a shadowed corridor. The bear's head tilts, whiskers flare. He's picking up soundless vibrations the camera can't record, channels of moving water under the shelf. Maybe the faint exhalation of a seal asleep in its hidden breathing chamber. Forepaws sweep like oars, claws catch nothing but water. The bear's hind legs kick once, twice, massive haunches thrusting a 1,000-pound body forward with deceptive grace. The camera shifts, tilts upward, giving viewers the vertigo of weightless flight. A pale disc appears ahead, a weak skylight cut by the seal earlier that night. Frost needles line its rim. The bear pauses 20 feet below it, limbs suspended, heartbeat quickens, bubbles gush. The animal is deciding. Attack from beneath or surface quietly and sniff for scent. Suddenly the head swivels right. Lens follows a faint, wavering shadow gliding along the ice ceiling, a seal silhouette, scribbled in lantern green light. The bear's breath halts mid-chest, heartbeat spikes. One colossal kick and the camera hurtles forward. Tunnel vision narrowing on the shadow. Water whips past in blue-black streaks. A jet of bubbles trails. Viewers can feel the acceleration in their own ribs. 10 feet. 5. The seal's tail flicks. Too late. The bear corkscrews upward in a burst of white muscle. Claws splay like grappling hooks. For a split second the camera is inside a snow globe riot of bubbles and blood. A dull impact reverberates through bone and camera housing. The seal thrashes, but the bear's jaws have already locked around its hindquarters. The camera dips, rolls, reveals both bodies in a silent ballet lit only by diffused moonlight. White predator. Slate gray prey. A tornado of silt. The bear kicks downward, dragging the seal away from its breathing hole. Heartbeat floods the audio. Hammering. Bubbles stream off the GoPro mount in ragged curtains. Particles of fur and fat float like confetti. The seal's eyes flash once, then glass over. The bear stops, hanging in midwater, jaws still clamped. A long exhale rattles through the mic. Buoyant silver bubbles flood the frame, catching stray beams of light. The camera lingers on the seal's limp body, then tilts up as the bear searches for a shelf shallow enough to haul out. Thud thud thud, heart slowing again. With 3 powerful kicks the bear rises toward a dim oval skylight. Ice overhead thins to translucent jade. Claws puncture in a shower of shattered frost. The bear heaves onto a ledge. The camera now jostles above water, droplets beating on the lens. The muffled underwater acoustics replaced by open night, howling wind. Distant surf grinding new ice. The crack pop of thermal stress racing across the floe. Steam curls from the bear's nostrils. He hauls the seal up, shakes excess water, then begins the slow, methodical feast. The camera occasionally tilts down, catching crimson spatter against white fur. Audibly crunching bone, yet nothing feels grotesque. Hunger here is physics, not morality. Aurora flickers in the far sky. Green ribbons dancing like breath. Minute by minute, breath by breath, the kill vanishes. The bear licks paws, muzzle, then sits back on haunches. Condensation freezes along whiskers like tiny chandeliers. Heartbeat settles into a deep, satisfied drum. For a final time the bear turns to the sea, sniffs the salted wind, and slips off the edge. The GoPro plunges after, re-entering the dark realm with a hush of bubbles. The ice roof closing overhead like a theater curtain. Fade to black, leaving only 2 sounds. the slow throb of a giant heart and the distant crackle of shifting ice, reminding viewers that even the most perfect hunt is stitched on the thin fabric of a vanishing world. The lens fogs over, blurs, then clears into view of a cobalt emptiness stippled with drifting snowflakes that never reach the seafloor. They melt midway, shredded by saline currents into ghost threads. The bear's bulk glides downward once more, propelled by slow, confident strokes, the seal's final calories already coursing through arteries in a warm surge. Each stroke is measured economy, no thrashing, no wasted churn. The water here is a cathedral of hush soundtracked by the metronome of breath and pulse. Light thins until colors drain to charcoal blues. A faint ridge of seafloor appears, littered with shattered clams and bottle green hunks of iceberg gravel deposited centuries ago. The GoPro's night mode clicks on, pushing ISO into grain, and suddenly luminescent krill burst across the frame like fireworks, tiny organisms startled by pressure waves from paddling paws. They ignite, then fade, leaving after images on the viewer's retina. Toward the right, something smooth glimmers, an abandoned fishing net, gnarled around a glacial boulder. Strands sway like tattered theater curtains. The bear angles closer, whiskers twitching as microthreads brush his nose. Plastic and salt, a scent foreign to ancestral memory. He noses the webbing, a mummified char dangles mid-snare. Paper-thin skin stretched over bone. One paw flashes out, claws slice cord as easily as tendons. The fish tumbles free, spirals into murk, another small hurt set loose from the sea's scar tissue. The bear circles the boulder, rounds its lee, and the microphone picks up distant clicks. A pod of belugas conversing far off axis. Their sonar pops ricochet along granite ridges, painting 3D holograms the bear cannot see but senses in the vibrato of water against fur. He pauses, head tilted, listening with his skull. A long inhale through nostrils vents a flute of bubbles that rocket skyward, briefly catching stray photons like sequins. Then, the faint pulse of exhaled air. Not his. A live seal is somewhere beneath the ice canopy, choosing night's stillness to surface unseen. The GoPro's field of view swivels upward. The bear's pupils flare open, black as the abyss. Heart thunders louder, faster, the microphone clipping on every offbeat. Pupils lock on a distant dapple of silver, the rippled undertexture of ice scratched by claws, marking a breathing hole. The approach this time is different. No straight line charge. The bear drops lower, hugging the darker band where water meets permanent night, then rises at a shallow diagonal. He halts 30 feet out, suspending himself by barely paddling, only a twitch of rear paws. Front legs folded against his chest to minimize wake. Silence unspools. His heartbeat still pounds, but slower now. A drummer sliding brush to snare, dampening volume until he fades into the ocean's own rhythm. Glass-smooth seconds crawl by. Through the thin ice above, faint stars wink, mirrored constellations fractured by frost fractals. The seal surfaces. A torpedo shadow glides into frame, muzzle searching for the slim vent. It breaks with a wet huff. Back arched, ribs pulse pumping outside its skin. Fresh breath fogs beneath the ice sheet. The bear surges. The camera becomes a bullet. Water pressure roaring across the housing. Muscles unleash stored rocket fuel of fat and glycogen. Posture shifts from passive ghost to guided missile. 7 feet away, the seal senses vibration, slaps tail, but water is thicker than fright. The bear's skull slams into the seal's flank like a battering ram. Jaws part, canines flash, the camera yaw spins amid a frenzy of bubbles. We hear nothing but thundering pulse and furious convulsions. At an impossible angle, the lens captures the seal's eye, wide, glassy, shocked. Then teeth meet hide with a wet crunch. But this seal is larger, an adult bull. It writhes, kicks, whirls in a cyclone that flings the GoPro sideways. The mount jerks. Viewers plunge into drunken spin. Black ice ceiling, midnight seafloor, ceiling again, all carousel. A hollow boom shudders through bare bones. The seal's skull smashes against the ice roof, leaving a crimson kiss that ribbons downward like a flag. Still, it bucks. The bear's claws rake, searching perches but slipping on blubber slick. Bubbles rise in frantic bursts, hissing past the mic like static. For a heartbeat, the seal breaks free, vanishes into gloom. The bear flips, scanning, nothing but swirling krill. He hovers, nostrils tasting blood threads. A choice looms. Chase deeper into the dark, burning oxygen, or return to the surface and breathe. The camera tilts upward. Viewers see the ice roof glimmer. Painfully far now. He kicks, ascends, heart pounding at double time. Bubbles boil past. He crests, slams paws into ice, but it's too thick here. Fangs scrape crystal. The sound is a shriek inside water. Metal on glass. Panic flickers, primal and electric. He veers left, scanning for the nearest vent. Lungs squeeze, diaphragm spasms. Another kick, another frantic sweep. At last, a fist-sized fissure fringed with rime. He jams snout up, exhales a thunder blast that widens the hole. Then inhales Arctic air so cold it burns alive. Pulse slows, breath returns. Life hangs by these moments. One more second of suffocation, and the footage would be posthumous. When his vision clears, he spots the bull seal drifting 15 feet below, stunned from its skull collision. It floats belly up, silky pelt ghost lit, a drizzle of blood threads from its nostril. The bear's panic melts into calculation, oxygen tank topped. Muscles still charge. He dives again, slower this time, coiling around the seal with forelegs. Teeth find the jugular. One decisive crunch. Struggle ends. For 2 minutes he stays underwater. Feeding. Audioscape returns to calm rhythmic gulps. The sound of flesh parting like wet paper. Viewers may find this grisly, but inside the mask of the Arctic it is a hymn. Calories equals nights alive equals cubs born equals a future. However tenuous, capillaries in the bear's tongue sear with iron warmth. The camera, soaked in blood cloud, registers everything in dreamlike burgundy. When the bear surfaces again, he selects a gentler ramp, a sloped shelf of translucent ice that moans under his weight but holds. He drags the intact seal halfway up, tears an entry gash behind the skull, and begins the ritual of disassembly. With each peel, he shakes crimson droplets onto virgin snow, painting Morse messages older than alphabets. I am here. I endure. Wind howls over the mic. Somewhere overhead the aurora has brightened into green searchlights sweeping the sky. As if the planet itself is calling for witnesses. Paws delve into the abdominal cavity. Pull rich organs free. The GoPro fogs, drips, refocuses on a smear of fat streaking over lens. The heartbeat finally drops to baseline, a slow, resonant drum, steady enough to lull. It's then that distant engine noise intrudes, a faint mechanical growl rippling across brittle air. The bear pauses mid-bite, pivots muzzle toward the horizon. Camera follows, catching the glint of a hull far off. Maybe a research skiff or tourist cruiser venturing too close. Its searchlight sends a wobbling beam across the floe. The predator's ears flatten, he snorts, nose flaring with diesel scent. This new intrusion is filed in the ledger of threats: thin ice, absent pack, plastic nets, leaking fuel, hungry seasons. He drags the carcass farther inland, away from ice edge and prying lenses. Frost gust sandblasts the camera, coating everything in diamond dust. Breath fogs like locomotive steam. He eats until gut bulges, then collapses sideways. The sky above pulses polychrome. Silent fireworks for a lone audience of one bear and one silent witness strapped under his chin. Sometime past false dawn, a pale hint of sun that never shows its face, he rises. What remains of the seal is cached in snow under ice shards to deter gulls. The wind has veered, bringing the iodine whiff of open water. The bear trudges toward that odor. Because the job is never finished. Every feast must seed another hunger. Every kill a new hunt. His silhouette shrinks against the pearlescent horizon. A white knight marching on a board of broken glass, guided only by scent and the drum in his chest. The GoPro's battery icon finally turns crimson. Before the feed dies, we glimpse what the bear sees, endless expanse of frozen possibility. Scored by fractures that look eerily like veins. Every vein drains toward dark water where the next heartbeat waits. Frame freezes. Audio fades, leaving just one last pulse. Deep and echoing, like the planet clearing its throat before answering the question our footage can only ask. How many heartbeats still remain beneath this disappearing ice? Then everything slips to black. And for a breathless second even the wind seems to hold its voice, listening. Perhaps, for the next splash, the next roar, the next GoPro click in the silent theater of a world on thin ice. A crimson battery icon winks in the corner of the frame. But the camera hangs on a moment longer, long enough to show the bear's hulking back as he leans into the wind, shakes brine from his ruff, and lumbers toward the yawning black lane where the ice has fractured clean through. At the seam, ocean exhales in slow pulses, each swell pushing sheet against sheet with a hollow bass note the microphone can only half capture. He pauses at the edge, tests the raft with one paw, claws raking frozen glaze. Satisfied, he slips in soundlessly, vanishing beneath the skin of the world. Pixels grain out, the LED winks once, twice, then gutters. Darkness. A new file auto-initiates 6 minutes later, failsafe firmware coaxing one last breath from the lithium cells. The lens opens on ragged black. A dull glow from somewhere far above paints rippling stripes across the bear's shoulders. He is deeper than before, gliding in a salt blue void where light has the thin, ghostly quality of candle smoke. In the near distance, the seafloor drops away into nothingness. The continental shelf ends here. Plunging thousands of feet, tiny snow pellets of marine detritus fall upward as the bear descends, organic grains flowing in reverse hourglass, testifying to how little time remains on the battery, and maybe on the ice itself. He is not hunting now. He is exploring, driven by something older than hunger, the unspoken cartography encoded in his bones. Every season, bears tour the outer shelf where deep water upwells rich with plankton, where whale songs flicker in seismic murmurs. Tonight there are no whales, only a distant, arrhythmic ticking. At first it sounds geological, but soon the camera finds the source, a foreign device suspended beneath a buoy, blinking a cold white strobe that paints the bear's muzzle in stark chiaroscuro. It's an acoustic Doppler current profiler, one of hundreds deployed by oceanographers to count every calorie the polar sea still produces. The bear circles it once, twice, sniffing the aluminum armature. Noseprints fog its pressure housings. Then he leaves it swinging, continues downward until the shelf edge slides past the top of the frame like a continental eclipse. Now he hovers over blackness so profound it seems to draw heat from the camera body. For 4 long seconds he simply floats, silhouette haloed by his own exhalations, and the gimbal's gyro hum becomes the loudest thing in the world. Far below, pinprick bioluminescence flares, cope pods startled by cold descending mass. They bloom, swirl, disappear. The bear's ears swivel, catching echoes no instrument on the harness can register. He backs away from the abyss, kicks upward, and the water brightens in gradations of cobalt, then turquoise, then glacier green. The camera captures the passage as if ascending through geological eras in reverse. Near the surface he pauses beneath a plate of ice so thin it flexes with each swell. Aurora light filters through, fractured into emerald hexagons. The bear rises slowly, as though reluctant to break a pane of glass. When his snout finally kisses the underside, the ice dimples, holds, then cracks with a crystalline chirp. A disc the size of a dinner plate pops free. Nose, eyes, half the muzzle breach into frosted night air. Steam erupts. He draws in a lungful so enormous the mic distorts from the inrush. A faint rumble drifts across the floe. Engines again, maybe the research skiff from earlier. Maybe a tourist vessel chasing midnight sun that never came. The bear tilts his head skyward, water streaming off his brow like wet silk. For a moment the GoPro shows nothing but that profile, powerful neck, constellation whiskers, nostrils flaring to taste diesel on distant wind. In that single frame viewers can chart the entire collision of two worlds, hunger and hydrocarbon, instinct and industry. The pounding need of a giant mammal built for a planet of ice now asked to survive on a planet of fuel. He sinks back under, ice lid clacking shut. The scene should end here, battery drained, memory full, but firmware scrapes another minute from the husk. The bear swims laterally beneath the young ice, searching for thicker ground. He finds it. A pressure-ridged glowing aquamarine from internal stress. He claws upward and the surface explodes into a spray of hoarfrost. Snow squeals under his weight as he scrambles out, water cascading off his coat in silver ropes. For once the camera remains still. He stands over the ridge, chest heaving, muzzle tipped to dark sky. Above, the aurora has blossomed into impossible curtain folds, viridian, fuchsia, burning violet, colors the camera sensor can barely resolve. They ripple, reflect in the slick fur between his shoulder blades, crown him in phantom fire. A voyeuristic satellite blinks red overhead. It cannot taste the wind, cannot feel the shuddering ribcage, cannot tell the difference between pulse and pixel. The GoPro can, if only for these final moments. Wind rises, soughing through pressure cracks. Snow begins to fall, real snow this time. Dry powder swirling across the bear's paws, burying bloody paw prints left from the seal kill. He lumbers inland, following a ridge that leads to who knows where. The camera swings with each step, capturing fleeting vignettes. A star carved in ice by receding brine channels. A lone ivory gull gliding overhead. Its belly lit green by aurora, the deep trough left when he drags his belly over a sastrugi crest. None of these will last till spring. Battery icon blinks once more, spearing scarlet into the monochrome of night. The image flickers, stabilizer hiccups, audio fractures into white hiss. Just before total black, the bear turns his head as though he remembers something left unsmelled. His eye glints in lens flare, a chip of ancient, fearless amber. The feed cuts. Days later, on the deck of an ice-rated cutter, researchers retrieve the harness via satellite pane. They thaw it carefully, chip off a rind of saline rime, slide the SD card into a shock-proof sleeve. Inside a lab lined with server towers, they watch the footage frame by frame. They listen to the hammer pulse of the hunt, the momentary panic under ice, the sigh of victory, the encounter with a silent instrument measuring seas too warm for comfort. They log timestamps, GPS fixes, dive profiles. They celebrate data points, mourn trend lines. But long after the grant reports are filed, when overheads dim and monitors sleep, someone cues the raw track on a lonely midnight shift. No overlays, no annotations, just native audio. They close their eyes and hear what the bear heard, the distant clink of nets, the approaching engine, the ancient roar of ice shifting its bones. They feel a second heartbeat beneath their own, for a breath that seems to last forever. They are there, beneath the ice roof, inside velvet dark, sharing the oxygen debt and the aurora afterglow, part of a living story that grows more fragile each tide. They reopen their eyes with a simple pledge: get this scene. Because while numbers convince, stories move, and the bear's story is more than footage. It is a chronicle carved in marrow and frost and time quickly running out. They encode, compress, upload. They hit publish and hope. Somewhere far north, the bear noses a brand new crack, gauging whether it's thick enough to hold tomorrow's dream of ice. He does not know the word viral. He only knows the scent of water on wind, the drum in his chest, and the endless duty of the hunt. For now, that is enough. And for those who have watched through his eyes, felt every bubble surge, every kick for daylight, every hammer of a heart built to outlast winter, maybe it will be enough to make them fight for ice that can hold both bear and camera and the breathless hush of worlds unseen. The screen fades to aurora filaments dissolving in slow motion. The last image is not black but the soft gray-white of snow falling onto new ice. Silent as an oath, the raw clip ends where every polar night ends, so suddenly the switch from silent snowfall to hard daylight seems violent. Like ripping linen off a sleeping face. Morning over the Beaufort is pale gold diluted by cataracts of sea fog. But to the GoPro sensor tucked in its foam case the glare is a whiteout. A deckhand in grease-stained Carhartt squints, then slides polarized goggles over his eyes and lifts the camera as though it were a newborn. A knot of researchers crowds the cutter's rail behind him. One of them, Dr. Sienna Clark, chief field biologist, hair braided tight against the gale, cups the camera in gloved hands and taps the frozen housing twice in silent thanks. An old ritual among Arctic tech crews, like blessing a ship before first sail. She ducks into the mapping lab, a shipping container welded to the aft deck. Inside, every surface hums. Server towers dumping breath like bull walruses. Monitors blooming topographic models in glacier blue. Clark sets the camera beside a bank of heaters, waits until the ice sheath cracks audibly, then unclasps the steel teeth and removes the SD card. The little sliver of silicon is warmed between latex palms, 1 part tech, 1 part sacrament, and slid into the reader. Across 3 hours the file ingests. Data rates yo-yoing whenever a bubble crash or aurora flicker spikes the bit depth. The room stays hushed. Even the ocean's constant percussion fades behind double insulated walls. When the progress bar finally hits 100%, the playback window opens to the first frame, darkness. Then the dim bloom of ice ceiling. Clark exhales. She hadn't realized she'd been holding that breath since the card left the husk, and clicks play. Heartbeats throb through the ceiling speakers. Lubbed up, exactly 62 beats per minute. The technicians glance at one another. Pupils dilating a fraction. You can read 1,000 papers on Ursus maritimus cardio-metabolic rates and never feel what 62 bpm means until it's thundering at body core decibels just above a hiss of blood. The clip rolls on, seal strikes. Pirouettes of bubble confetti. A frantic scrabble under ice, and again breath disappears from human lungs. No CGI, no stabilization AI, no voiceover, just the unmediated, unstoppable will of a creature evolved to survive in a world that no longer cooperates. When the screen finally goes black and the last heartbeat echoes off composite walls, the projector leaves a green auroral afterimage floating in the lab's recycled fog. No one speaks until Clark clears her throat. Voice husky. She orders a tertiary backup to cold servers in Norway, a mirrored copy to the public Glacier archive, and a watermark pass for release under Creative Commons. The technicians hesitate. Never before has raw kill footage been open licensed. Clark insists. Numbers and white papers reach one audience. Fear and exhilaration. Those travel faster. Deeper. 48 hours later the 7-minute supercut appears on a frigid corner of the internet. Posted without hype. POV. Polar bear hunt beneath vanishing ice, full audio. It percolates through science Twitter. Then climate TikTok. Then mainstream newsrooms hungry for visuals that punch harder than charts. The soundtrack of drumming heart and whooshing breath is laid under remixes. Lecture snippets. Protest chants. In a week the views tick past 50 million. Kids watch on phones under blankets. Holding their own breath during the under-ice panic. Oil rig workers pass the link on encrypted channels between shift whistles. A media outfit offers 5-figure licensing to slap their bug in the corner. Clark refuses. The footage belongs to nobody and everybody. She says. To future bears and skaters on someday streets submerged by thaw. The company publishes an op-ed branding her naive. She turns off her phone for 2 days and goes back to fieldwork. But stories are feral. Once freed they forage where they wish. A coalition of Inuit hunters and youth activists clip the 30-second struggle scene. The moment the bear almost suffocates before punching through the flimsy breathing hole. And project it onto the seawall of an international shipping conference in Rotterdam. Delegates exit a luncheon on Arctic superroutes and pause to watch. Canapés cooling in manicured fingers. For the span of that projection they are inside the lungs of another mammal gasping under a ceiling it never agreed to thin. The clip seeds legislation. A Scandinavian broadcaster commissions a documentary. Venture capital flows, some hopeful, some predatory, into ice monitor startups. Methane capture rigs. Drone rescue companies. The footage is co-opted by marketing teams. By deniers cherry-picking frames to undercut. Alarmist editing. By politicians who never set foot north of 64 degrees. That was predictable. Less predictable. A surge in GoPro donations arrives at Clark's cash-strapped station. Each parcel bearing a note in child's handwriting. For the next bear, one reads, a 6th grade classroom in Buenos Aires holds a bake sale to sponsor satellite bandwidth. An ex-oil geologist in Texas mails a check with shaky cursive. I drilled the seafloor. Maybe this undrills a little. Trade-offs? Sure, but the money buys new collars. Solar-charged tags. A marine acoustic array that will eavesdrop on the shelf break long after Clark retires. Meanwhile, the bear, unnamed except as data point A317 in Clark's ledger, roams a coast fractured into puzzle shards. He gorges on one more seal. Loses 5 pounds each day he fails to find another. The banded collar irritates a bit. But he's grown used to it. A scratch behind the ear. A shake. Gone. What matters is scent. A female denning on a ridge of snow thrown against the last chunk of multi-year ice. Musk riding the Katabatic wind. He follows, paddling through slush thick as concrete slurry. Each stroke a wager that ice will hold long enough for one more season. One more pair of cubs. He doesn't know his hunt became a mirror held to 8 billion faces. Doesn't want to. His universe is the simple calculus of calories versus miles of thin water. The GoPro harness went home with researchers. A fresh battery waits on the workbench. But capture schedules hinge on funding cycles. And the bear's life spans no budget quarter. Still, some March night soon, Clark will sedate him at a fresh kill. Swap batteries. Adjust straps. Whisper, though he is stone asleep, that his people are rooting for him. Not enough maybe. Not fast enough. But rooting. She will stand back as he lurches awake. Shakes off siren grogginess, and ambles toward the black lane water. She'll watch the red LED vanish beneath cobalt. Pulse once, twice, swallowed by dark. She will log the timestamp. Tag her file GoPro A317. Cycle 2. Scroll to the line marked projected days of safe sea ice. 173 and change it, down or up. Depending on the new satellite read. And the bear will do what bears do in the last vault of real winter, swim. Dive. Listen for the hollow drone of a hollow world. Bash through skin ice praying it's thicker on the other side. With luck, the lens will hold, and the next clip will surface in a month. And another classroom will pass the jar. And another delegate will pause beneath a building high screen and taste brine where air should be. The footage will never fix the math alone. But math spiked with heartbeat is harder to ignore. And sometimes, just sometimes, harder is enough to tilt a vote. To slow a tanker. To buy one more year of breathing holes. That is the last line of Clark's field notebook that season, ink smudged by gloves. Scrawled as the helicopter lifts her from the floe when supplies run thin. Harder is sometimes enough. Outside the window white fractures thread the sea like lightning frozen mid-flash. Somewhere far below, a bear's chest rises, falls, rises. The camera on his collar blinks red, then green, then red again. Etching an SOS in binary across water dark as space. Screen fades out on that pulse. The rest is up to whoever is still watching.